and today I just want us to talk about electric cars real quick. This is not going to be a really low-level kind of video explaining every single nitty-gritty detail about EVs. No. Now to set up the preface for the word vehicle, I know I'm using it very loosely here. The word vehicle simply means car in this kind of very setting. So electric vehicles are simply just, they're like your phone. You can just charge them up, and once the battery is full, you get to power up the motor, and you get to power up the inverter, and you're good to go. You could just get driving, right? So now that leads me to actually some of the pros and cons about that. Here's the thing. You have different systems here, and so some of the pros and cons that come with EVs, compared to gasoline cars. And I want to start addressing the pros here. Now, the pros are that, of course, you got less systems to deal with, right? You don't have any spark plugs on the engine or anything like that. It's just like one shot, get going. The pros about EVs are that they are really, really very easy to design from a spark plug, or from a systems perspective rather. So you have less stuff to deal with as an engineer. Or this is good for engineers, actually, not for the user or the customer. So actually this is also good for the customer, because when we're talking about maintenance, you don't really have a lot of stuff to maintain. Just last week, I have a cousin of mine. He had to change the spark plugs in his engine. I mean, his engine kind of burned up, and he had to pull over inside of the road and change the spark. Well, he technically had to drive over to the next car dealership or something that was nearby and buy spark plugs, put them in himself. So it's a nightmare. If you have a car, maintenance is a nightmare. You don't want to have to deal with that. So EVs have less systems to deal with. That's also good from a maintenance perspective, or from an environmental perspective. You have less emissions being emitted onto the atmosphere. You have less emissions to worry about in the atmosphere. And from a scientific standpoint, emissions that we're talking about here are sulfur, lead, we're talking unburned hydrocarbons, carbon dioxide, water. Most people refer to these emissions as carbon emissions. You probably know them as carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emissions. They're harmful to the air and the atmosphere and the earth and humanity and blah, 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 blah. It goes on. But the point is, these are some of the pros that come with EVs. Now, I know there's a question that people always ask, well, bruh, okay, actually, I remember somebody asked me this personally, and they were like, bruh, AV, don't you think that it's absurd to have EVs? Because that's like, you're not really getting rid of the problem, because manufacturing plants where these cars come from run on coal, crude oil, natural gas, and so forth. The answer is, look at it from a different perspective. And the perspective is, look at it from an efficiency perspective. In fact, look at it from a carbon footprint perspective. And so how much emission footprints, right, do car manufacturing plants leave behind compared to cars on the road today? I mean, look at the scale of these just two things. All right, guys, come on. Statistically speaking, the number of cars in the world are much, much well, maybe not astronomically, but they're tremendously higher compared to the number of manufacturing plants out there. That's just logical thinking, right? We don't have a single manufacturing plant for every car that gets produced, because that would just be stupidity, right? I'm not sure if people call this economies of scale or whatever, if I'm confusing things. If you're an economist, bash me on the comments down below. That's really just about it from my side concerning some of the pros. Okay, let me throw in one more thing that's between pros and cons. There's a whole lot of room for development for EVs, right? So when we're talking about efficiency of electric cars, it's kind of easy to just keep on improving things like your range. Actually, this leads me to some of the cons. And there's not really much I could think of right from the top of my head. The one that has gotten more weight to me and I'm only going to mention that just the one here. Some of the cons about these are the range. EVs suck when it comes to range, or when it comes to balancing things out between range, performance, and cost. Those three things are really super important to me, because if you can't get those three things right, then that means the car is not drivable, right? First of all, if you can't drive long distances, why should I bother buying your car? It's not drivable. I can't buy. Listen, and here's the thing. I know that there are billionaires out there that want all three. That want both of these things on the cars. Like, it must be a high performance car, or it must just, be crazy, ridiculously off the charts when it comes to performance. And secondly, it must be extremely efficient. It must be, it must travel long distances. We're talking thousands of kilometers, thousands of miles. Come on. There's gonna be a whole lot there's costs associated with all that. So the balance between low cost and high range is a bit of an issue right now with electric cars. It's really hard to. Tesla is trying really hard with the pricing thing, and I think their pricing model is the one that I'm leaning more toward, compared to companies like Honda, Rivian, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Audi, Porsche, and all these other companies. So it's I guess you have to really. This is a con for me, because if you can't, look, guys, let me put you in perspective here, right? Okay, so here in South Africa, or anywhere else in the world, really, you could probably get a good car that could do 800 kilometers in one filling of fuel, right? So, that's like, you don't have that with electric cars right now. So most people, you probably, listen, this is why it's not very ideal for you to buy an electric car in 2021, all right? Just don't buy an electric car in 2021 or 2022. People who are buying those things right now are just people who just like having nice things to look at and talk about or whatever. But no, from a living expense perspective, from living expenses perspective, don't buy a car. Don't buy an EV car right now. Don't even buy a hybrid car. Heck, those are even the worst. Hybrid cars are just gasoline cars that have a low carbon footprint. That's all. Okay, so it's not hybrid cars for me. Just they don't faze me. I'm not fazed by them. Yeah, they're good and whatever. I've seen some of them, Toyota Prius, driving around Johannesburg, around city. So it's, for me, that's a con. Okay, so regarding the future of EVs, look, there are different power sources that we're probably going to have in the future regarding EVs. We're probably going to have, we're probably going to have hydrogen fuel cell cars, or hydrogen fuel cell batteries, rather, on some of these, electric vehicles. And again, this is just a different form of power, but at the moment, they're not really efficient. In other words, you don't really get much out of your battery. In other words, let me put it this way. If you were to charge a battery or hydrogen fuel cell car battery right now, 100%, full capacity, it would only deliver 52% of that power to your motor. Do you understand? So what that means is you're actually not getting that much range for the amount of charge that for the amount of time that you take to charge a battery. You're not getting the range that you actually should be getting. And so that's a huge trade-off. I don't know why anyone would try to, there are not many investments going on right now hydrogen fuel cars, because the research is not promising at the moment. So, but it's improving, and that's what's good about EVs. That's why I think they're the future, and that's why you should care about them. That's why you should, take a bit more time to learn about them. Just keep up with what's going on really around you. But the other good thing about, again, EVs for me is that the range is going to improve. These cars are really catching up to, in terms of the range and the amount of time that you get to charge them. The amount of time that you get to charge. Oh, by the way, how could I possibly forget this? Jeez, guys, some of the cons, okay? I need to add in let me just throw in one more con in here. I'm sorry. Let me just trash EVs just for one last time before we move on to 2025. All right, look, the other con here is that you need, just like you got gas stations, you need EV stations, right? Now the problem with EV stations around the world is that they're not really, the infrastructure is not ready yet. And so this is the more reason why you should not buy EVs, especially in South Africa, especially, heck, anywhere in the world. I don't care where you are. You should not be buying these cars, unless you're in the United States then, which, you know, it's kind of different there, I guess, because, you know, Tesla is really building quite a lot of these stations around the United States, and, you know, they're trying to get more actual stations into as many states as possible. You also have the UK, you know, or let me just say Europe. You know, Europeans are a bit more, they're very conservative folks. So over there, they don't like really jumping much really quickly into things. So it's mostly just the tech tubers that are just, you know, it's just the tech tubers that are just, you know, getting their hands on these EVs. But yeah, essentially the future is kind of, it's very hopeful. A lot of improvement, a lot of exciting projects to get into, in fact. And I think the most exciting part that I am personally looking forward to is the battery capacity side of things. I mean, the capacity of these batteries are just getting enormously higher and higher, and they're improving year by year. And that's what I like about them. And I can't wait to see machine learning, autonomous driving be incorporated in these cars. All right, that's been it, guys. Just let me know what your thoughts are about EVs, maybe the future, or, you know, just what your thoughts are about maybe some of the cons and pros that I mentioned. I'd really love to see where your thoughts are, especially regarding some of the future power sources. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Of course, if you like the content, smash the red button. Anyways, yeah, that's been it, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next video.